I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Tom Ross. I'm also honored to be participating in an event with other such great speakers, so I hope you look forward to hearing them speak too. I want to start off with showing a question. What is aging? I'm always frustrated when I get that question because I can't understand why people would ever ask such a question, but people do all the time. And they also ask, is aging a disease? And what does curing aging mean? I mean, I get stunned when I get these kind of questions because all my life I've just, isn't it obvious? When I was 10 years old and my father came up to me and said, Bill, when you grow up, you should become a doctor and find the cure for aging. I didn't ask him what he meant. I thought it was pretty obvious. I mean, think about it. Does anybody here not know which photograph of Betty White was taken first? Well, that's what aging is. When I was 10 years old, that's all it was to me. It's still, that's all it is to me. And even though a lot of people want to take blood samples and measure one thing or another, and if they see that kind of reverse, they say they've cured aging or reversed aging. It's not, we haven't succeeded until Betty White walks out on stage and looks 24 years old again. That's what I mean by curing aging. And yes, some people can go and measure other things, but I also want to emphasize that it's not just the looks, it's the health too. My big goal is to make certain that everybody is playing tennis, dancing, having the time of their lives when they're 150 years old, okay, and then looking 24. So now there's a lot of things that have been talked about in the past. You can read about these things everywhere. I call these age cures. I'm not a semantics expert, as you can tell by my not knowing really the definition of aging. But cures, age cures, these things have been around for a while, a long time. And you know what? I'm sure you can recognize some of them there. And that list is by no means complete. In fact, some new ones just came up just in the last few days. But these are like billion-dollar markets. People are spending tons and tons of money, and almost none of these have any data ever that shows that it works in humans. These things have been great in extending the lifespans and health spans of mice, roundworms, fruit flies, yeast, but there's nothing hardly in any of these things that say they actually have any beneficial effects on humans. This is really frustrating for me because people are spending all this money. I want to make one exception. Metformin, and rapamycin too at the bottom. Metformin is actually showing some significant health benefits for humans, especially in reducing cancer. Even though it was originally made for diabetics, it is a really, really good thing for slowing down the process of getting cancer. So if you're not on metformin yet, I highly recommend it. Okay, so these things are big markets, but things that I'm a little more excited about are stem cells and stem cell inducers and something called parabiosis. I won't be talking about these today because Dr. Maharaj will be talking about these a little after I'm talking. And all I can say is I'm very optimistic about these things as possibly being something that might have significant benefits, in fact, including being something that might reverse aging. And then there's telomeres. And every fiber of my being, I believe that telomeres are the target for actually reversing aging and curing our aging. And this is what I have spent the last 25 years now focused on trying to resolve. So what are telomeres? To understand what a telomere is, and these slides I'm going to show now I've shown a lot in the past, so you might have seen them before. We have to zoom in on a human being because telomeres are very small things inside our bodies. We zoom in, and the first thing we see is that a human is made up of 100 trillion cells. Most of the theories on why we age say that we age because our cells age. And so what we really got to do is find a way to keep these cells from aging. Well, we have to zoom in further. We see that every cell contains a nucleus. And inside these nuclei are these blue things called chromosomes. And chromosomes are where all your genes are. They give you your hair color, your eye color, etc. Zooming in further, we focus on one chromosome here. And we find it's made up of two arms, a top arm and a bottom arm. Think of it like a long shoelace. And at the very tips of that long shoelace are the caps of your shoelaces, but in this case, in the chromosomes, that's where the telomeres are. Now, if we zoom in on the telomeres, we find that telomeres are about 15,000 bases in length. DNA is measured in, or chromosomes are measured in units called bases, and the telomere is about 15,000 bases in length, at least when we're first conceived. And then here's where all the troubles begin. As soon as you're a single cell embryo, as soon as your cells start to divide, each and every time your cells divide, those telomeres get a little bit shorter. And there's so many cell divisions required to go from a single cell embryo to a newborn baby that your telomeres have already shortened from 15,000 bases down to 10,000 bases before you're even born. But the problem doesn't stop here, okay? It gets worse because you are still going to be growing up. You're going to have cells dividing, et cetera, and those telomeres are going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. When telomeres get down to 5,000 bases, we know from looking in petri dishes and looking at tissues, we die of old age. Our cells cannot function when telomeres get down to 5,000 bases. This is not a theory. This is a fact. We've known since the 1970s that our telomeres get shorter and shorter and shorter. And when they get down to 5,000 bases, our cells lose the ability to function. This is something we need to deal with. But let's go over this again. This is really important. We are conceived at 15,000 bases. We are born at 10,000 bases. And we die of old age at 5,000 bases. And there's absolutely nothing we can do about this yet. No matter how well you eat or exercise or do everything your doctors tell you to do, you cannot stop this shortening. If you live the perfect lifestyle and have the perfect genetics, your telomeres are still going to shorten. And the maximum that you could live, if you had the perfect genetics and lived a perfect lifestyle, is 125 years. The math says that these telomeres are shortening at such a rate that you can't possibly live beyond that. And nobody in recorded history has ever lived that long. Okay, as I just said, we have a 125-year theoretical maximum. This has been known for many, many years. Shown here are 3 different publications where people have looked at this kind of population studies. They all pointed to 125 years, and nobody knew why. But telomeres explain it perfectly. With the discovery of telomeres, this is fully explained. Also want to mention that almost every disease you've ever heard of has now been connected to the length of your telomeres. Some of these diseases have even been shown to be the cause of short telomeres. But at least there's not a single case that I know of where a disease has not been published in a scientifically peer-reviewed journal article saying that the disease is at least correlated with the length of your telomere and possibly being caused by it. Maybe making them longer might actually reverse that. So, big question. Is telomere the results of aging or is it the cause of aging? Before the mid-1990s, nobody really knew, but most people bet that it was actually a result of aging. But if we could find a way to lengthen telomeres, we could answer this question, because if we could take old cells in a person and then lengthen them, then if telomeres were short telomeres were the cause of aging, then we should see those cells or the organism or whatever get younger. Well, we can lengthen telomeres with this enzyme called telomerase. This is an enzyme that, as Tom mentioned, I discovered, or I led the research in the discovery of back in the early, mid-1990s. And what is shown here is the green squiggly thing, that's the DNA in the chromosome, shown as a double helix. And then telomerase is shown as this factory-looking thing. And what it's doing is it's bound to the very tip of the chromosome, the telomere, and it's adding new bases to make the telomere longer. And that's what telomeres do. It turned out we'd known since the early 70s that when our cells divide, our telomeres get shorter every single time. That was true for every cell in our body except our reproductive cell. And that's really important because if our reproductive cells, the cells producing our sperm and our eggs, if those telomeres were getting shorter, then our children would be born with shorter chromosomes than we have. And their children would be born with shorter telomeres than they have, et cetera, et cetera. And we would have been extinct as a species before we had gone through 3 generations. So this is where we looked at back in the early 1990s. How is it that our reproductive cells don't have telomere shortening? And we ended up discovering this enzyme called telomerase. Now for the discovery, I was awarded National Inventor of the Year, or second place for National Inventor of the Year. The people that discovered the HIV protease inhibitor won that year. I got second place. And my colleagues won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2010. So this is something really big. This is not one of your many, as you've heard, quack and charlatan type of ways to cure aging. This is something that's looking really good, enough to be awarded several awards. Okay, so what now has telomeres accomplished, lengthening telomeres accomplished in this field? And this is where I want to go into some scientific data here. The number one thing, the first thing that we did with telomerase was we showed that we could break through what's called the Hayflick limit. Now, a major barrier to extending lifespan and health span in humans is the fact that our cells can only divide a certain number of times. It used to be thought that this is a graph now showing days of human cells growing in a culture, and then the y-axis going up and down there is the number of cell divisions that have occurred. It used to be thought that when you took human cells and grew them in a petri dish, they would just keep growing and growing and growing. So you would see a linear line growing up. When 1961, Dr. Leonard Hayflick showed that it doesn't keep going. It levels off. And they called that the Hayflick limit. Now, nobody could get through that barrier. Nothing that I've mentioned before in that list of other things, the age cures, nothing has broken through that barrier. And it's really important that we break through that barrier because in order for us to live, we have to have cell division. Cells lining our guts, our immune cells, our skin cells, they have to be constantly dividing. But if they reach this barrier, and coincidentally, that's about the equivalent of being 125 years old when that barrier hits, but it hits a lot of your cells a lot earlier than that too. But in order to really cure aging, we have to break through that barrier. So after we discovered telomerase, we tried lengthening the telomeres, and for the first time ever, we saw this barrier broken through. And there is no way we're ever going to cure aging unless we can break through that barrier. And we finally succeeded in the mid-1990s. There's no other theory, as I said, that has done this before. It has been reproduced in thousands of labs right now. This is published in scientifically peer-reviewed journals. This is not a theory anymore, just like telomere shortening is not a theory anymore. These are facts. This data is 17 years old. Okay, so as I said before, it baffles my mind that people are spending so much money on these things that work in the roundworms, fruit flies, mice, and yeast, and very little attention is being put to this major discovery that's been awarded a Nobel Prize, et cetera. This data is 17 years old, and nobody has refuted it. Nobody has come out with a paper saying it's not true. Every single person that's tried to reproduce this data has done it, or they have not done it and then figured out they were doing something wrong. Now, I also asked the question before, is aging a result of aging or the cause of aging? A result or the cause of aging? And this kind of answers the question a little bit. It suggests, at least, that telomere shortening is a cause of aging, if this Hayflick limit is actually a cause of aging. Okay, so let's move on. What else has telomere short lengthening done? It has actually now reversed aging in human tissue. I don't know of anything else that's ever done that. This is a mouse. Now we can't actually treat human tissue because the FDA would not allow that until lots of clinical studies were done. But colleagues of mine at Geron Corporation, where I used to work when I first discovered telomerase, took mice and put human skin, grew human skin on the back of the mice. They did young and old skin, and they treated it with and without telomerase. Well, the first big thing that they saw is that the old skin looked visibly younger, very visibly younger, by every way you could look at it. And it also behaved younger. It behaved as it was young. When skin gets old, it blisters easily, for instance. And so you can take the skin and treat it harshly, cause blisters. Well, the old skin that had been treated with telomerase became young, and now it didn't form blisters any more than normal young skin did. So again, oh, and also I should mention that they also looked at the genes. This is the only thing that I've ever seen that actually looked at this many genes that are associated with aging. And in all cases, they saw 30 different genes go back to being young again, or at least the expression of the genes of aging. Again, no theory on aging has ever done this before. This data is 15 years old now. As I said, it just baffles my mind that there is not more emphasis put into this area in trying to cure our aging and health. So reverse our aging and reverse our decline in health. And again, nobody has refuted this. I would say it's just frustrating. And again, this also suggests that telomere lengthening, or telomere shortening, is a cause of aging, not just a result of aging. And then there's one more thing. This is the first time in the history of the planet that anybody has ever reversed aging in any kind of life form, at least a higher organism life form. Colleagues at Harvard reversed aging in mice by lengthening the telomeres. This is the publication that came out, the press releases in Nature News. Nature is one of the most prestigious scientific journals there are. It actually claimed telomerase reverses aging process. Never seen that before. When they lengthened the telomeres, they saw a 30% increase in the telomere length just by inducing telomerase in old mice. So they had old mice and young mice. They took the old mice, they lengthened the telomeres, and they got the telomeres 33% longer. When they did this, they saw aging reversed in every way imaginable. They saw restoration of fertility. These mice were too old, they couldn't breed anymore. Suddenly, they could breed again and produce very viable offspring. They saw their spleen sizes increase, which is spleen sizes always get smaller when you get old. They saw restoration of the sense of smell, good sign that brain function was coming back. I'm going to talk more on that. They saw a restoration of brain size, and mice could remember how to go through a maze again that they could not, they'd forgotten how to go through. This has now been, people have suggested that this lengthening telomeres could actually reverse dementia such as Alzheimer's. It might be that dementia is not the loss of memory, but maybe the loss of access to the memory. Because how did these mice suddenly get brain function back if they had lost their memory? They just maybe had lost access to it. And they also saw a threefold increase in survival after 25 weeks. Nothing else has done this. This is, again, I'm seeing this over and over again. telomeres, lengthening of telomeres, seem to be the biological clock of aging. This is a major place where we should be focusing a lot of our attention. This data is 5 years old. It's not new data. We've known about it for a long time, and nobody has refuted it. Again, this suggests that telomere shortening is a cause of aging, not just a result of aging. So this makes telomere shortening a major, major thing to work on. So is it the only cause of aging? Well, I'm going to say first, I don't believe it is, but surprisingly, now a study has come out saying that telomeres actually do control many of the other processes of aging. For instance, long telomeres prevented oxidative stress and mitochondria dysfunction in mice. Mice then don't actually age by telomere shortening. To do that previous experiment I talked about, they had to engineer the mice to make it so that they age by humans. But mice do age by oxidative stress and mitochondria dysfunction. I'm sure humans do too, but it's not as big a cause of aging, I believe, as telomere shortening is. But they found that when they lengthened the telomeres in the mice didn't suffer from the oxidative stress and mitochondria dysfunction, at least not as bad as they did before. Okay, so the press releases this time said aging theories unified. It was telomeres are the kingpin of the aging process. The head of MD Anderson, one of the most prestigious hospitals in the world, and a key author in this study, actually was quoted as saying, telomere dysfunction is not just one culprit in the declining health of advanced age, it's the kingpin. Telomeres are important. No theory about aging, no other theory on aging has done this. Again, this data is now 4 years old. It's not brand new data. It's been around for a while. And again, nobody has refuted it. The cure for aging is in our telomeres. And if I don't get anything else across today, that's the one thing I want to do, is that really telomeres are very, very important to the process of our aging process. And not just looking aging, but also the health. Okay, so lengthening of telomere is reversal of every, okay, so what has happened now is that in these studies, they've looked at everything imaginable about aging. We've seen age reversal in everything. Again, telomeres are it. Nothing else has done this. Now the problem why we are not all using this right now is because the methods used in these studies are not suitable for humans. In fact, what you first have to do is you have to first get the telomerase into the cells, and that process of just getting into the cells actually kills a lot of the cells. So this is one of the reasons why we can't do this with humans yet. But we need to find a safe and affordable way to induce telomerase in our cells. And that's what my company, Sierra Sciences, is all about. Since 1999, that's been our one and only focus, trying to do that, trying to figure out how to induce telomerase in all of our cells safely and in an affordable way. Our mission is to find low-cost ways to safely lengthen telomeres in humans to reverse aging and declining health. This is my company in Reno, Nevada. We were founded in 1999. This is just some pictures. We do a lot of high-throughput robotic screening. A lot of you probably are familiar with this. We have 10,000 square feet of lab space with all the equipment that we need to actually work on this, and we're not working on anything else. This is our one and only focus. Sierra Sciences owns the telomere lengthening field. By own, I mean nobody's coming close to what we've accomplished. And why is that? And I would have to say the first reason why we essentially have no competition is because everybody used to be skeptical. They didn't believe this was possible. It was too unbelievable. When I first started my company in 1999, my colleagues all thought I was crazy. Aging couldn't be as simple as just telomere lengths. And so everybody just said, okay, go ahead, do it, Bill, but I even asked some of them to join me, be co-founders with me, and nobody wanted to. Very frustrating, but I was, as I said before, every fiber of my being believes that this is it. It's not just because I'm got a wild imagination, because I'd really analyzed all this. Telomeres, I discovered telomerase, I'd done the experiments, and it all made sense. And also I want to point out that there's a lot of theories about why we age, and a lot of them are associated with the environment. Okay, or let's say internal environments too. But they didn't make sense to me. Even when I was still in high school, I used to think, exposure to the environment to cause us to age doesn't really make sense. If the environment was what was causing us to age, and why is it that people who live in the North and South Poles age at the same rate of people who live on the equator? And why do dogs and cats age at different rates from humans when they're in the same environment as us? So it had to be more than just environment. There had to be some kind of clock that ticks inside of us. And the only clock that I had ever seen that made any sense was telomere biology. So we started the company in 1999. We just focused on doing this. And we spent 10 years working on this before others started realizing why we were spending our time doing this. All these experiments came out showing, I don't want to say suggest anymore, showing that age was being reversed by lengthening telomeres. And that alone, that was the only thing needed. Nobel Prizes were awarded. I was awarded National Inventor of the Year. Suddenly, everybody's, let's say 8, 9 years ago, people were starting to come see the light. Hey, this is really working. Well, as a result, nobody can catch us anymore. Okay, we are so far ahead because we saw the light a long time ago and we've been focused on this. And so we are actually making major progress. Okay, so what I mean by telomerase inducer, when we find something that we add to human cells and it causes those cells to start producing telomerase, we call that a telomerase inducer. So we've been doing this since 1999, and the strongest small molecule that we have found that will actually induce production of telomerase in human cells produces 16% as much telomerase as needed to stop the aging process. And if we could get higher than 100%, then we would start seeing age reversal just like we saw in these mice. Now there's also gene therapy approaches. This is actually where you take a virus you infect yourself with. As I said, a lot of these studies that were done beforehand were done with viruses, and they cause a lot of damage to the cells all by themselves. But now there's actually some safe viruses. And so we're focusing on these now. They're called adeno-associated virus. These give a score of 30%, 3,000%. That means they're causing the production of telomerase to be about 30-fold higher than you need to stop aging. And as a result, it reverses aging. And we see this work extremely well in human cells grown in a petri dish. This is really exciting. Now, small molecules, they're affordable. Everybody's gonna be able to buy these things. But even though this is available now, it's just not affordable. We estimate to make enough virus to infect one person will cost us $700,000. Okay, so that's not coming yet, but we're working on ways to try to make that cheaper, as well as trying to make the small molecule approach work. And that's our main focus of Sierra Sciences, is to find a small molecule. The ideal thing would be just take a pill and your telomeres get longer. And that's what the small molecule would do. So we will have a small molecule telomerase inducer that we believe will have a small molecule telomerase inducer that has a score higher than 100% within 1 year. That is our goal right now, to do that. That is our major goal. Everything else is just backup plans, et cetera. That's the ideal thing, is have a small molecule. We think we can have this done in 1 year if we had the funding. And this is, again, what baffles my mind. We have such a major discovery here, Nobel Prizes, everything else, and we're having trouble getting funding ever since the 2008 global financial crisis. So how are we getting our funding? Well, my company is actually two companies. There's a company called Sierra Sciences, which you've already seen a picture of. But there's also Sierra Marketing. And Sierra Marketing, okay, so Sierra Sciences is 100% research, Sierra Marketing is 100% marketing. I actually own 100% of Sierra Sciences, and Sierra Sciences owns 100% of Sierra Marketing. Sierra Marketing funds Sierra Sciences research. So that's where Sierra Sciences is getting its funding from. Okay, so where is Sierra Marketing getting its funding from? And that's from go-to-market partners, and I have to apologize, I left some things in my, what's going on there? Okay, I left some things in my briefcase that I wanted to show you. But what we have, Sierra Sciences has assets that a go-to-market partner, or a marketing partner, if you want to call it that, can take to market. And that's what we're doing ever since 2008 to try to get our funding to do our research. So assets by global go-to-market partners are taken to market. We have many assets, some of them which I already talked about. We have telomerase inducers, synthetic chemicals, natural products, gene therapy. We also have things that will protect your telomeres. They don't lengthen them, but they will decrease the rate of their shortening, increase in your chances that you'll get to 125. Then we also have assays. Assays that are more powerful than anything else. We have high throughput assays that can measure whether or not your cells are producing telomerase. And we have really good methods for measuring telomere lengths. Now think about it. People have been paying fortune tellers to tell them how old they are for hundreds and hundreds of years just by reading the palm of their hands. How much will people pay to actually have their telomeres measured and have an actual biological marker to tell them how old they are? So having an accurate method to measure telomere lengths is important. Then we also have anti-cancer molecules, and I guess that slide got out of order there. Okay, so in the markets we have pharmaceuticals. As I said, every disease you've ever heard of. This is big, okay? If we could lengthen telomeres, we'll decrease, hopefully, heart disease, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, on and on and on. Macular degeneration. Macular degeneration is one of the few that have been shown to be caused by telomere shortening. So has immune senescence, I forget what it is. And then nutraceuticals. Nutraceuticals are the same as pharmaceuticals, except the FDA has already said they're approved. They have a classification as generally regarded as safe, GRAS. So there's this nutraceutical market, and as you can see on the left side, we've already found natural products that will cause telomerase to be produced when added to cells. Skincare. It's been known for a long time that when telomeres get short in your skin, it causes your skin to become thin and wrinkled. And as I showed you in the mouse studies, with human skin on the back of a mouse, lengthened telomeres reverse that. Pet products. I think this is one of the biggest markets because people spend a lot more on their pets than they will on themselves. And we have shown that dogs, cats, horses, sheep, pig, and deer, in addition to primates, this is just humans, all age by telomere shortening. Even though normal mice don't, these pets all do. So everything I'm talking about, what you can do for yourself, you can also do for your pets. Wouldn't it be great if that puppy you had would stay around and not end up being somebody that just sleeps on the front doormat all the time and does nothing? Wound healing. It's been shown when I was still at Geron that wounds heal faster when telomeres are long. And this is a really big problem, for instance, in people that are confined to beds in hospitals. They get bed sores. And the bed sores are caused by injury, healing, injury, healing, injury, healing. During the healing process, cells are dividing, the keratinocytes, the fibroblasts, et cetera, are dividing, and as a result, the telomeres are getting shorter. Well, after several divisions, the telomeres get so short, it can't heal anymore, and so you get these bed sores that don't heal. It's a real common, big problem in hospitals where people are confined to beds. If we could provide a telomerase inducer, that would allow these wounds to heal. Big business there. Then there's aging diagnostics like measuring telomeres, as I mentioned. Stem cells, there's a lot of belief right now, some don't believe it, some do believe it, that stem cells actually do have telomere shortening. So when you take stem cells out of a person, and if you do any culturing, either inside the body or outside the body, those stem cells get shorter and shorter telomeres. So when they're put back into you, they're actually older than you, even when they're your own cells. So it might be advantageous to have a telomerase inducer to work with when you're culturing stem cells. More work is needed on this. Then there's also cancer diagnostics, which I won't go into detail, and also cancer treatments that we, on that fourth asset. I'm not going to go into details there. If anybody's interested, they can talk to me later about that, because that'd take me an hour to talk just about that. But we are looking for go-to-market partners. So if anybody here knows of any company that is interested in licensing any of these kind of things and putting them on the market, let me know. Okay, or if any of you have companies that would like to do that. In all cases, all licensing fees and royalties go back to our research. So if a company is selling one of the products, a product that contains an ingredient of ours or an assay, we get a royalty and a licensing fee from that, and that all goes into our research to develop the small molecule drug that will have something to score of higher than 100%. Now, two of these things that I've checked off here, we already have go-to-market partners, and they're doing quite well. We have natural products that we've discovered. I left it in my briefcase, but I wanted to show you we have a product called Isogenic Product B. Some of you might be familiar with that. It's a supplement that people are taking. It's been on the market for 5 years right now, and it's a supplement that actually does cause telomerase to get induced. Then we also have synthetic chemicals that have been now put into skin cream. A company in New Zealand called the Chase Life Extension Foundation licensed this from us 5 years ago. Since it's a pharmaceutical, in this case, a synthetic chemical, they did clinical studies through Abbott's laboratory, put it into a skin cream, did clinical studies, and the clinical studies came back pretty fantastic. Even though I said our best drug was 16%, they were actually seeing some signs of age reversal in every single person in the clinical study. So at the moment, these products are earning us $200,000 per month. The product that I just talked about, the skin cream, that's called One Truth 818. It's right now only marketed in New Zealand and Australia. But this month, there will be another skin cream product marketed in Japan, South Korea, and China, if the stock market doesn't really get destroyed there. And we are expecting within 6 months our royalties to be as high as $1 million per month. And this is important. $1 million a month would be sufficient for us to do all the research we need to find a small molecule that will induce telomerase to levels enough to reverse aging and do it within 1 year. At least we'd have something to start testing in human cells then. We'd still have to do animal clinical study, preclinical studies, et cetera. But 1 year is what we think, extrapolating from our previous progress of finding something that was 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%, extrapolating from that, we estimate it's 1 year until we'll have 100%, doing something that we call, it is called medicinal chemistry. Now, but we won't have the $100 million per month until we estimate mid-2016. And personally, I do not want to wait for that. So we are actually looking for an investment. We are right now looking for $5 million in exchange for 7% of Sierra Marketing, just to get this research going now instead of having to wait 6 months. I don't know how many people are dying every day from aging. So it's important we move as fast as we can. Now, what does that mean? Well, Sierra Marketing, that's the company that's providing Sierra Sciences with its funding. And Sierra Marketing is where all the money is. It's where all the go-to-market partners are going to do things. Sierra Marketing might even get into marketing its own products, but I doubt it. It's probably just going to be a conduit with the go-to-market partners or marketing partners. What does that mean here? Well, that means 7% of all that. Those are big markets. These are all billion-dollar markets. So this is actually major fund-making effort when we have something that actually will reverse aging. So at this point, I've been told throughout my career that people invest into people, not companies. So let me just explain who I am a little bit. I've been in the biotech industry for many years, and I've played key roles in the discovery of human growth hormone, renin, tissue plasminogen activator, erythropoietin, thrombomodulin, osteoinductive factor, beta-seron, and now telomerase. And in all cases, I was brought into this when teams of other scientists had failed at trying to accomplish the goals here and spent years doing it and had concluded that it can't be done. And I was brought in to do it. This has been my background. I am somebody that actually makes things happen in the biotech industry. I've been in biotech now for 35 years, mostly in the beginning focusing on cardiovascular disease, cancer, and inflammation. I've got 50 plus US patents. Sure, most of them are in telomerase, but I've got 50 US patents. For a biologist, that's a lot. A chemist, that wouldn't be very much. But for a biologist like myself, that's a lot of patents. I was, as I mentioned, National Inventor of the Year, second place. And I'm obsessed, my entire life, I've been obsessed with staying healthy, doing everything I can to be healthy and athletic. I've competed in many, many sports. I've actually had world records in water skiing and running. And I'm an ultra marathon runner. I really believe in endurance exercise is one of the best things you can do to delay the aging process and declining health. I've also written a book. I've got business cards. Information about the book is written on the back. And I've also been in documentaries, most notably, in fact, I think here's the book. It's available on Amazon.com. This documentary called The Immortalist. It just came out 2014. It actually almost won an Oscar. It was in the top 10 to be nominated for an Oscar. It just didn't make the top 5. And on Netflix and iTunes, it was featured as one of the top 3 films when it was first launched. So I recommend you see this. If you missed anything I said today, read the book or watch this movie called The Immortalist. It's really good. So I want to end with, we need to do this. We need to find a way to lengthen our telomeres. And we have no choice, because nothing else is going to stop or reverse the aging process if we don't also figure out a way to stop the telomere shortening. This is like an asteroid's coming to Earth. It's going to hit the Earth and destroy the Earth. Why are we worrying about air quality when that's going to happen? Well, telomeres is that asteroid. Shortening telomeres is that asteroid that's coming to Earth. And nothing else is going to make us live beyond 125, being healthy beyond 125, if we don't solve the telomere shortening. We can't live, as I said before, beyond 125 without finding a way to lengthen telomeres. So the cure for aging is in our grasps. All we have to do is get the research done. Help us all. Thank you very much.